Hi, everyone. My name's Sarah, and I work in landscape architecture. And I came to landscape architecture through the lens of psychology and biology as a student. And in biology, I was in knee-high waders inside of creeks, trying to figure out how the world works. I was like, how does this work? And in psychology, I would go and wax philosophical with my professors and think about how I work, right? And trying to understand what was going on. And I was introduced to the field of landscape architecture because I was fascinated with the idea of design. I wanted to figure out how to make things work, how to then change things. And during my tenure and studies as a landscape architect, I came across this word called landscape urbanism. And I had no idea what it meant, and I had no idea what we were going to do with it. And so I did what every non-ambitious person does, and I said, okay, I'll make a website all about landscape urbanism so I can figure out what it is. So we launched a website. We built and launched a website called Landscape Urbanism in September 2011, 7 months ago. And in the past 7 months, we have had over 100,000 site views. We have grown a community of 1,500 people on Facebook, or 1,200-ish, and almost 1,500 people on Twitter. We have a team of more than 22 different firms that we represent and 30 writers that are all engaging in this project. The website, if you haven't seen it, looks kind of like this. This is the strategies page. So we have almost 50 different projects by a bunch of firms where you can go in and take a visual tour of different projects in landscape architecture. We have a blog, which is about current events, news, and op-eds by different writers. We also do interviews. And then we launched a journal called the Landscape Urbanism Journal, which is more nitty-gritty, in-depth academic articles that you can come and reference on time and again. It's not a print version, it's just online. But that doesn't answer the question that I asked in the beginning, which is what is landscape urbanism? And I'm sure that you guys are probably wondering as well. Landscape urbanism is about taking landscape architecture in the design process and instead of putting it last, putting it first. We're not trying to fit landscape architecture in between and around all of the buildings, but instead we're recognizing that buildings sit on top of land, cities sit on top of land. There's a metabolism and a functioning and a kind of invisible set of systems that we need to understand to really do our design well. It's also very much about the interdisciplinary nature of design and the cross-collaboration and contamination that happens between disciplines. So this comes back, I was asking earlier, the why. What's your why? That was the what. The why for me is that I couldn't find this information as a student. I didn't have a good place to go and say, what is landscape architecture? What are we doing in design? How do we communicate this? And my why is that I think we need to do a lot more writing in design. We need to tell the story of architecture and of landscape architecture and change what's coming up on the Google searches in order to really start to explore and see new markets where we can be doing more work. So I think that we need to become better storytellers in order to become better designers. Now, the how. How did we do it? How did we go from a project that launched in September and got to where it is today? Well, the fact is this is a story I just told you, and it's not really true. I actually started quite a while ago when I purchased the website and I started my research and I started understanding what this term meant. And I think for all of us, the projects that we're embarking on aren't things that start and stop in a very limited time frame. It takes a while to build these projects. Also, it's not a single person endeavor. There's no way I could have done this by myself. My network building and outreach and coordination started a long time ago as well. I slowly started building a team one by one and bringing people into the fold and asking them how they wanted to participate and contribute. And then very significantly, the firm that I work for, SWA Group, offers and sponsors an employee fellowship to 1 or 2 people every year to have 4 weeks of paid time off to do a project of their choosing. And so I put this forward and I received the fellowship. And this project would still be an idea without that sponsorship and support of my firm. One of the interesting things that we did as well is we created a beta site. So before we even had anything to show people, we told people what we were up to. And we also launched the Facebook and the Twitter well before we actually launched the site. And this is what the beta site looks like. We said, hey, this is what we're doing. And we gave people 2 options. We said, we want you to sign up to be on our newsletter, or we want you to participate Come join us, write for us, give us your projects, sign up for Facebook. And the result of this is that we had, I'll go back. We had 250 people or so on each of our Twitter and our Facebook before we even had anything to show them. So we had an audience of the most excited individuals for the project ready to share when we were ready to share. And also, the content strategy for the site was deliberate. We had 3 different platforms: the journal, the blog, and strategies. And this goes back to my thesis about how we communicate in design. I think that there are some people that are really interested in the academic and the scholarly, and I wanted to make sure that we were talking at a level to engage them. But then at the same time, there are people who are visual, right? We're designers. And so the strategies is a way for people to see these projects maybe that they can't go see on their own and go visit. It also appeals to people who aren't in our field and just want to see these really cool projects. And in the future, I'd love to build it out so that it's location-based and there's mapping associated with it. Maybe people can upload their own pictures, et cetera, but right now it's curated. And then there's the blog, which is another content stream, which engages. We have 12 people now writing for the site, and they're from all over, and there's some pretty interesting op-eds there. And that, I think, is a different way to engage people. So in terms of social, what's social, right? I think social media sometimes get a bad connotation that it all has to be online. No, for me, as much of it is offline as well as online when you're doing social. You have your arsenal of tools such as Facebook, Twitter, a newsletter. You can send emails. You can share what other people are doing. But so much of what I did to build this site was about what's happening online. So going to conferences, speaking, meeting people. The network grew one person at a time, one handshake at a time, one conversation at a time. And I also want to really emphasize the point of using email. I will probably put together a book of the number of emails that I wrote in the last year, because year or two. I sent email after email after email after email, crafting letters and stories and asking people to buy in and participate. And my favorite one is actually with Richard Werman. I don't know if you all are familiar. He is also an architect from Penn, and he's most famous for creating the TED conferences. And so I emailed him. It took 4 months. I emailed him a new story every month, and finally got a one-word, one-line response, all capital letters: "Yes, I will help you." Perfect. I'll take it. So to wrap it up, I think the things I learned from doing this project is start with your objectives. Figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Social isn't about standing up in a room and talking about yourself. It's about having a conversation and engaging. And it happens both online and offline in a lot of different ways. And then you want to slowly build your team or your audience over time. And my biggest takeaway so far is that idea leadership and putting your ideas out there as a designer is one of the most powerful things you can do. In a world of an abundance of information, putting your idea, getting it outside of your head, putting it somewhere where somebody else can access it, curating based on a topic, and bringing people together around a topic is one of the most important things we can do. Thank you.